Coming up on the program, our hard work is beginning to pay off with the harvest that's coming out of our garden. And coming up on the program, we're going to take some plastic, wrap around a tomato cage, and put it around our yacons in August. We'll explain all that and more coming up today on the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. The Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener is sponsored in part by, for all your non-GMO, heirloom, organic, vegetable, flowers, and herb seeds, visit dollarseed.com. Sioux Growing Supply, located in Wausau, Wisconsin, focusing on certified leaf compost, an excellent amendment for poor soil, retains moisture and adds nutrients, which equals less watering. Available in Sioux organic seed starting kits, pre-filled trays and pots, bag and bulk. Visit SiouxCompost.com. Don't poison your soil with municipal water. Attach a body, mind, and soil hose and filter. Free shipping exclusively through the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com. Just click on the body, mind, and soil icon. Authentic Haven brand soil conditioner for the home gardener. Easy to brew, 100% organic. Visit ManureTea.com. Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Joy Baird. Well, it's the middle of summer, heat's on, and we are starting to get produce out of our garden. And we're going to show you some of the things that we are getting out of the garden and some of the rewards that we are being offered from the garden because of our hard work. Now, these were our peppers that we store-bought because we had an infestation of aphids in the house, and it eradicated all of our peppers that we started. Now there's a lot of weeds here, but it's August, and that's just the way gardening goes in some instances. But we do have some peppers that are starting. Well, we've already got some off of this, but these pepper plants are a little on the small side, but they are producing some peppers. And we're not heavy on pepper eating, but we do like peppers if we can get them and grow them ourselves versus buying them at the farmer's market or the local organic grocery store. So they are producing, and peppers are a tropical plant and they love a lot of heat. So we've had them up here on the high end of the garden where the most sun comes, but predominantly over the summer months we have not had the intensity of heat that a pepper plant really likes to have. So that's kind of where we're at with the size and the productivity of those plants. Now with here, we planted some of our melons, cantaloupe, and some watermelon in our raised grow bags or our compost bags, and they are very small, compacted. There's a bee pollinating right now. Very small and compacted. And we got those are the cantaloupe there. These are the watermelon here. They do have some growth. Oh, look there. There's a little baby watermelon, about the size of a pea there. So we still have a little bit of time to try to get these to grow. But again, if you grow watermelon at all, it's a very heat-loving plant and requires a lot of moisture. And the combination of everything going together, you're going to get watermelon, which we may or may not get watermelon on that, but it's something that it's working. In years past, when we just planted this in the ground, we wouldn't have got to this stage because we couldn't keep enough moisture to it, etc. But with these being in a bag of compost, it retains the moisture and it's really producing growth. So we will still see if by the end of the season we may get something off of it. These are our garbanzo beans, or as known as chickpeas. Now, we planted 24 plants here. These are on the smaller side, but kind of what we were expecting. Now, one thing that you might think of doing is planting these yourself, and that might be something that would be well worthwhile, whether in a container or ground garden or raised bed. But one thing you want to keep in mind is, one, they're ready. When the plant's dying back and the pod is brown, you can also harvest them green. But when you open them up, do keep in mind, you may get 2 per pod, but more than likely across the board, you're going to get 1 chickpea per pod on a plant. So you're going to have to plant a whole lot of chickpeas or garbanzo beans if you're going to have a well-worthy amount to eat. So we're going to go ahead and harvest these and get what we can off of them, because we did grow these. You can harvest them when the pods are still green and kind of put them in a stir fry, but that's personal preference. The tomatoes are doing well. If you have followed the program at all, last year we got hit hard with the tomato hornworm. And we got we had 60 plants here at the large garden, and out of all of them we got maybe 3 or 4 really solid tomatoes, and maybe a pound total out of all that work. Well, we've done some research, we've mulched, we've done a lot of work on it, and we only have a few plants now that are getting hit with it, which is fine. Now, I'm not certain of the variety of this particular tomato plant, but you can see how large those tomatoes are. Those are baseball and softball size, and we've been getting beautiful tomatoes now for the last couple of weeks off our plants. But if you remember, when we planted them, we gave them a very high regimen of organic fertilizer. We soaked the hole with Moo-Poo tea at the time of planting, and we had healthy starch going in the ground. And with a combination of everything, our plants are relatively healthy. Even though we are a little on the dry side, we do have some blight. That's just what's going to happen even with the application of whole grain cornmeal, but it greatly reduces the amount that we have to deal with. And with the tomatoes, no matter what method you're growing them in, you continually want to keep that bottom portion pruned off, that 6 to 8 inches, to allow circulation, to really reduce the amount of splashback you get when watering or when it rains. So we are very pleased at this point of the season with the success of our tomato plants. There's always room for improvement, but over last year, we're 1,000 times better than we were 1 year ago. These are just some of the tomatoes that we have harvested today. That's a Mr. Stripey there. I mean, that's a palm size. That you can never ever find a tomato that pretty. These are some pink brandywines. The type of tomato that all other tomatoes want to be like, because they're so fragrant and flavorful. Some black crims, just some little red ones. I don't know specifically the variety of those. But if you notice, absolutely no blemishes on these whatsoever. I mean, just absolutely picture perfect tomatoes. And it's not really the outside, it's the inside, and these are all going to taste absolutely amazing. So with every good relationship, tent poles are important, but also we've used them to grow our scarlet runner beans on, and it's worked quite well. We've got a 15-gallon, no, not really 15, this is more of a 30-gallon black pot that we were given that a tree came in a couple years ago. We filled it with certified leaf compost from Sue's. We had the scarlet runner beans here as well as on this side of the trellis. We planted about 16 of them. 3 managed to come up. So we moved the two that came up over there into this container with the one that germinated here. You can see they're beautiful blooms. There's going to be a lot of flowers, and there again is Mr. Honeybee pollinating our flowers, and I'm not going to get too close because I want him to do the work, or she to do the work for me. But you can see it's very well established in just fiberglass tent poles that we had in the shed, that we needed to figure out how to get this to grow in a container without too much effort, so you as well could see that if you just have stuff laying around, it can be utilized. This is our pole bean trellis here. We've got Trail of Tear pole beans on this side and just regular Blue Lake pole beans on that side. These will turn into a purple pod dry. You can eat these now, or you can wait until they become hard, and then like a hard shell bean. Corn like this, when you see it curled up as it is here, it is extremely stressed. And you can see here, with this particular patch, it's wanting to put an ear on, and it's just not going to make it. We threw these seeds in the ground with very little preparation. We simply said, we've got a spot, let's just trial and error some things. As you'll see later on with our corn patch or our sweet corn area, where we've intensively worked the soil and added amendments to it, you'll see the very, very different story with that. Again, as we had on the high end, we've got some squash here. Not really sure if this was pumpkin, but these just never ever took off for probably a variety of different reasons. But a success story that you can find in many of your growing areas is volunteers. And these are volunteer tomato plants that we had scattered among the garden that came up all by itself. We never started these. A volunteer, for those who may not be familiar, these are plants that naturally come up from fruit that have fallen from previous years. We had 12, we picked the best 6 and put here, and these are not, monstrous, but again, these are free plants that the garden has given back, and if you see dead leaves, you want to discard them. These are a little on the stress side for water, but they are producing fruit, and it's something that we had no work in it whatsoever. Pole bean trellis here, we had some problems with rabbits getting in the garden again this year. We've solved that issue, and we are starting to get pole beans to establish on this trellis. And you can see this is a volunteer tomato plants, and we're just going to let them grow. They're not hurting anything, and it's just not worth the effort to pull them up, and whatever we get off of them, if anything, is worth it. Again, we've got tomatoes through there that are heavily producing. So on the lower end of the large garden here, we've got a lot of stuff happening. Now this is our straw bale garden. We've talked about this, 2 beautiful zucchini plants and some cucumber plants. About an hour ago I came out, this was completely shriveled up, or curled up, much like that corn was, because the bale had dried out because of the intensive heat. So I added 6 gallons of water that we got from our rain barrel, and it's perked back up. Now I did notice we had powdery mildew. Powdery mildew on zucchini, or any vine really, is this white, misty white stuff, this powdery substance. So we're just going to take this and get this off the property, get this away from it. If you are having issues with that, we have a video that we'll put in the link below, as well as a link from Growing a Greener World that Joe Lample has wrote on simple home remedies to greatly reduce, if not eliminate, the powdery mildew that can eradicate your squash and zucchini and all those type of plants. Now we have over here butternut squash, spaghetti squash, and we have a variety of different sizes, shapes, and textures, colors of the fruit starting to grow on the vine. Looks really good. Again, these are kind of curled, but if you recall, this was a bed that we had mulched very heavy last fall with leaves, walked away and did nothing with it. Came back this spring, simply put little slits, dropped the seeds, and walked away again. And with all of that mulch, which we had about a foot of leaf mulch, kind of where we're sitting at is a 1/2 inch to nothing in some areas because it's broke down in the soil. This here is our sweet corn that is a much different story than down on the other end. So when you're looking at when to harvest your corn, you want to look at one important thing. One, you can see the density, or the thickness of the stalk here, incredibly large because of the material and the nutrients that we put in the soil. You want to look, true enough that this may be dead, the hair, each one of these hairs goes to a kernel. But when you look at the base here, there's still a lot of non-dead hairs. So you want to leave that alone until this, you can kind of pull this back a little bit and see kind of where your kernels are forming. And even though the grass is, or the hair is dry, there's still moisture going to those kernels to bulk them up. So this is about another week, maybe 2 weeks away from really being at its peak. Another thing, we have suckers on tomatoes. You do also have suckers on corn. You see this massive stalk here. This is about the size of a broom handle, a normal broom handle. Then you have 2 adjacent stalks coming off the main stalk. These are suckers. Now most people will say go ahead and get rid of them because they're sucking nutrients off the main one. But if you look at this here, these are not going to produce ears. But this produced a tassel, which is the pollen for these ears, and it's very close to this one. So it's helping everything pollinate. So I just kind of leave a lot of things alone and let nature do its own business. So we'll wait a couple more weeks because we're very close to solving the mystery of how we can get sweet corn to grow in our garden. This is a flower garden that Holly planted here. We got sunflowers that are probably another 2 weeks away. We got zinnias. We've got a variety of flowers here that have come up. And we do see bees, as I'm looking here, we've got several different bees here that are flying in the area. And we put this centralized to bring bees into the garden, and then as they fly away, they see the flowers and everything else from the fruit. So this is a great way, even if you just had a whole garden of flowers, it would not be a terrible thing. We also have some zucchini back here that's doing really well, and the tomatoes in our Florida weave. And this is one of the disadvantages of not really paying attention or being able to get these off the ground. They're just kind of sprawled all over, and you really reduce a little bit of the tomato volume or the yield. So there's a lot of things happening. We've got some beans and some peas that are planted on the back side of the garden, but basically we are fairly happy with the garden. Obviously we would like a garden to be abundant to overflowing. But right now, as we sit with this garden, we put a lot of effort, Holly and myself, into this, and I would give us right now about a B- on the success of the garden. Now, things may change for the better or for the worse in the next 60 days, but I think right now this is one of the better gardens that we have had and been able to produce, and every year we know what we can do different to make it better. Growing in containers is a great way to expand your growing area, whether you have ground to grow in or not. We are at the point where we can harvest some of the stuff coming off of our containers. We're going to first look at this zucchini plant. Now, we planted in this 20-gallon, I would assume about a 20-gallon plastic container, and we mulched it with just ordinary sand. That has really held the moisture in and didn't allow the moisture to evaporate out. We still have to water on occasion, but it really reduces the amount of watering that is required. We have 2 zucchini plants in here. This back one here is small and spindly, so we are going to cut it out and get rid of it to allow more nutrients and allow this one to have a better chance. Nothing wrong with that, it's just small, and I don't want to have it take away from the ones actually producing. So what we have here, as you see some of these leaves die back, you can go ahead and cut them off. All right, get a weed here that we have out. So this one here has got a tiny black beauty zucchini on it that we're just going to head and cut off. Now you can harvest zucchini at whatever size you choose to pick them at, but keep in mind the smaller they are, the more tender they become. Once they get to like baseball bat size, you really can only really make relish out of it, and it's better just have them this way, and you can do a lot of things with them. So we'll go ahead and back and water this plant. There's some more flowering that's going to take place in the center. As you see leaves here that are not healthy, go ahead and cut them off. It's not going to hurt the plant, it's actually going to help the plant because the plant doesn't have to try to heal itself. Now it can just focus on growing fruit. So now let's go up into the pop-up raised bed and look at some of the cranberry hard-shell beans that are ready to harvest. So this is our pop-up raised bed that we have up against the house here, and these are cranberry hard-shell beans. Now, we're not really certain, well, we have an idea that squirrels possibly have been in the bed here because we have squirrels living in the tree there. But some of these are ready to harvest, and you'll know when a bean is ready to harvest, whether it's in the container or in the ground, because if it's a hard shell bean now, if it's a regular green bean or edible purple bean or a yellow green bean, you want to harvest them when they're tender and small. These here, you want to wait until the shell dries and you open them up and look at the fantastic color that these have produced. This marbling. Now these are still a little on the moist side, so we'll have to let these dry. But this pink and white marbling of these beans are just really, really neat looking. And now you can harvest these also when the pod is still wet and green, but it's best if you allow it to dry on the vine. Now with this instance, that we know that we have critters that are probably going to take out the rest of these, we're going to go ahead and harvest these early and just let them dry on the counter, because a smaller dry bean is better than no bean at all. Now these most likely will go to seed stock for next year, so we have more of an abundance of seeds that we can plant a larger patch with. So harvesting in containers, growing in containers is a great way to expand your growing area, whether you have ground to grow in or not. When it comes to harvesting what you've worked hard for all year, you just don't want to yank it off the plant. We've talked about this on the program before. The reason being is you can stress the plant out for one, you can rip the plant out of the ground, because some of these plants have very shallow roots. We're next to the zucchini plant here, and the zucchini has gotten much larger than anticipated. It was hiding. So we're going to harvest it now. you want to cut, you want to use a knife or scissors of some sort. You just don't want to, I know we've all done it, we've gone in there and twisted it off, but your best result, or your best solution here, is to get in there and cut it from the vine. Making a clean cut there, making a clean cut on the plant, letting less chances of diseases getting in there. And this goes the same for beans, cucumbers, tomatoes, eggplants. Cutting it makes a much easier harvest, a lot less damage to the plant, less chance of harming the plant by doing that. I'm going to get another one out of here, but just don't rip your fruit and your fruit and vegetables off the vine or the plant. So these are our yacon plants that we are courtesy of Nichols Garden Nursery up in Oregon. Yacons are a tropical plant that has a root that is harvested that looks similar to like a sweet potato, but has a taste of between an apple crossed with a celery, or an apple, celery, watermelon type of mixture in flavor. And they grow much like the Jerusalem artichoke. Well, these are not as growing as great as I had hoped they would, because of the inconsistency of warm weather that we've had. We had some days over 80 degrees, and we've had a lot of days under 80 degrees. And for some of you, that may be a relief compared to where you're living. But we want to give these plants the best chance, because these should get 3.5 to 5 foot tall, and then we'll dig them up in the fall. So we're looked at a couple of options on what to do. We've watered them, which helps, but also we've got 2 of them here, so we're going to take a tomato cage and put around one, and then we're going to wrap some 4mm plastic, not tight around it, but going to act as kind of like a miniature little greenhouse. Now, putting this cage around it, I want to be very gentle with these leaves, and nestle the leaves up over top of the bracing here. All right, that one's down. Okay. Try to get around just a little bit more. Okay, so now the cage is there. A little loose on this side here, because I'm in a crack in the ground, so I'm going to fix that by moving it over. Okay, that's better. Now we're pretty secure. So I'm going to take this 4mm plastic, and I'm really not sure, this is totally an experimental project to see if this particular type of application is going to be beneficial or not beneficial at all. So that's why we have the control over here. Now you use 4mm plastic if you're doing like now you'd use the plastic similar to this or this if you were using it on top of a cold frame in late fall or early spring. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to wrap this. Now I'm not going to make this airtight. I'm not going to enclose the top here. But what I am going to do is add some tape here to try to close the edges off a little bit. Let's get the scissors out so those are ready. And find the end of the tape, which is right there. And just put a little bit of tape, kind of snug it around. And we'll cut that off there. And I'm going to take the top here, roll it under. Put some tape there around that ring there. Now this could be made in any shape, form, or fashion. Now what I will do is I will take, I just kind of want to basically put a blanket around this thing, is kind of what my mindset is, but not so much that it just seals it off to where it's 900 degrees in there and this thing completely bakes. I want it to mimic more of a tropical environment, and I'm going to add some more tape. But that's kind of what we're sitting at. When you look down the center there, it doesn't look terrible. I don't know how happy it will look in a couple of days, but we'll see if this adds any growth. I'll mark it and then come back in 1 week and see if it has increased or decreased, like, starting to die off. And then if it has helped this, and we'll check in on it as harvest becomes closer, we may go ahead and jump on this one and do the same thing to try to intensify the heat around the plant so it can produce more roots, and we can have yacons this fall. Thanks for joining us. Join us again next time for more organic gardening, food preserving, and experiments around plants. I'm Joey Barrett, and this has been the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.